All right, guys. We have returns. We're back again. Finally completing the week loop. It's now been a week. Exciting day today, guys. Exciting. Super enthusiastic. What an amazing day. What an amazing day in New York City. Everybody's so happy. Everybody's so happy. They're just cheering over here. And you know what? I think, guys, I really think we should give them the day. It was a beautiful day outside. We should give them the day. Let's let them have a day to enjoy themselves before the anxiety sinks in. Let's give them a day to relax, celebrate, and then when they wake up in the morning and they realize that Trump's not conceding, really not conceding, and that things are going to the courts, let's see that anxiety. Let's see where it goes. Let's see. But first off, we gotta check. We gotta check the wine. We got another Lambrusco, guys. It's just Lambrusco all day, every day. Today we've got another red one from Emilia. See, another reason I like these Lambruscos. Look at that, low alcohol content. It's almost like a Vino Verde, just nice and easy. Goes down nice and easy. It's kind of like it's like a nice fall drink because there's a little bit of red wine versus like a white wine, but it's still light. Anyway, all right, team. So we got Biden, unsurprisingly, declared president. I thought they were going to declare it yesterday evening. They waited till this morning. And I get it. I think that what happened was that they received a message last night. Because you saw, I don't know if you guys saw the Biden in the car show place. Did you guys see that? Did you see the media's little thing for Biden in like the car dealership, a Jeep car dealership? I mean, guys, this stuff is it's just too funny. It's just too funny. So they have him up there, and he's looking super nervous. It's like he's like breathing heavily into the mic. And at first the media has it's panned out, and there's there's nobody there. And then they kind of realize they shouldn't be panning out. So we've got Biden. We got Biden now this morning officially declared. But guess what, guys? Guess what? Well, first off, the media doesn't decide who becomes president. The media can say what they want to say, but it's actually much worse than that, because they continued to count in Pennsylvania in direct contravention to the Supreme Court. And I think that's why they stalled yesterday. I think that's why they stalled yesterday, because I think that the message from Alito threw them off a bit. I think they you could tell they were getting a little bit of cold feet. But really, what were they going to do? They were either going to, at this point, surrender, and we're going to concede defeat. And, I think that the outcome wasn't going to be much different. I don't think the outcome was going to be much different for them. Maybe they were offered some deals. I'm sure that they were offered something. But look, here's the thing to understand about evil. Evil doesn't take deals. It doesn't take deals. When you are fully compromised by evil, you can't say, all right, we'll cut back on this, which is why people who commit crimes always get caught in the end, right? If they're doing it from something from an evil intention, they are compelled to continue to do it over and over again until it destroys them. So, if somebody's done something evil, the only way that they can cooperate is if they decide to turn away from it. It's the only way they can do it. So if you have completely sold your soul, you're just going to keep doing it. You're going to keep doing it. And you can give them tons of chances. They're still going to go ahead and do that stuff. So what do we have here? Okay, we have strong evidence of Operation Scorecard, right? As we talked about before, 3% of the early vote totals being flipped. We have massive evidence of hundreds of thousands of ballots across multiple states that were, sent out, that were done ahead of time. Tons of dead people voting. It's a lock shut case. The big thing here. So next week is going to start to get very, very brutal. It's going to start to get very, very brutal for them because the evidence is going to be very, very egregious. Now, there's a guy, Greg Rubini, and and I don't know where he's getting his numbers from, but he's basically claiming that it was a 2-1 victory, Trump to Biden in the popular vote, and that the Electoral College was something like Trump won 400 something Electoral College votes to Biden 77. Okay, so I don't know if that's true. And he also said that New York and California flip red. I don't know if that's true. It could be a little bit of hopium, even though I'm like, maybe I'm a hopium dealer myself. Could be a little bit too much hopium. But here's the thing, guys. This is one of those things that, from a internal resonance, I feel that could be true. I feel like the victory could have been really, really, really decisive like that. I just don't have any data that supports it. And the reason that we might not have the data that supports it is because what is basically done in those states like California, New York, Illinois is so egregious that we just don't have a basis to even assess people because they've been stealing it from so long. And that's the only way that I can kind of reconcile it with the data, that those states are so, like, the fraud has been so rampant that nobody has any accurate estimation about how much people have really voted. Pap chatting crap again? I don't know who. I don't even know what's going on here. So, in terms of what's going on here, like what's really next? What's next? I haven't actually tried this yet. What's next? What's next here? What's next? Well, as I saw today in New York, we already have the brown shirts deployed to the streets. We have the brown shorts deployed to the streets. Okay, they're there, and they had all these signs. The signs were basically, they were prefabbed. Like, these were all things professionally printed. They had been sent out at the very, very minimum, like the day after election day. Like, they've been around, or they were prepped, and they must have arrived minimum yesterday. They must have arrived with these people. They were all there. They were all ready, and they're ostensibly celebrating, but they're actually there. You could tell. I mean, from the things that they were saying, from the signs that they had, they are expecting to go and fight. That's what they want to do. They want to go trash shit. So it's all going according to plan. Now, did you hear some of the things that, and maybe this will change up some of their plans, that Trump fired today a couple heads of agencies in the U.S. government, particularly pertaining to the electricity grid, nuclear weapons, and natural gas. So it's that's interesting because one of the things that was expected was that they would crash the grid, try to cause maximum chaos, try to really make it seem. So maybe that's not going to happen. Maybe Trump's ahead of time with it. But look, I get questions like this all the time. When are they going to come? When are the white hats? When are they going to do this? When are they going? You guys just got to be patient. All right, you got to be patient. It's not about catering to your emotional needs. That's what this isn't about. Like, I know that people get really anxious and they wanted this stuff to happen years ago, but it's not about what you want. You have to get used to dealing with the tension. Personally, I think this is fun. I'm having a good time. I think it's very exciting. We are living through history. We were living through, I've said this, biggest thing in 26,000 years, right? Biggest thing since the fall of Atlantis. We are living through very, very big times right now. So let's learn to love it. Let's learn to enjoy it. We're going to get the outcome. It's going to happen eventually. And once so you're probably in New York too. I'm going to talk about that in a second, the betting platform. But when this is done, and it's going to be about a whole year cycle, right? It's going to be about a whole year cycle. I'm guessing something around, it's going to be around equinox to equinox, right? Spring equinox to spring equinox. And when this is all over and we have nice, calm, wonderful lives and we're building a new world and we don't have all this fight and stuff, I think some of us are going to look back and we're going to be like, man, that, 2020, 2021, that was a hell of a time. That was a hell of a time. Jumping on Pat Stedman's COVID cabal periscopes. What the fuck's what's he doing these days? What's he up to? So we've let's just enjoy it. All right, let's enjoy it. We understand what the outcome is, and I see, as I talked about yesterday, I still see tons of people. They aren't grounded in the 5D. They can't tell fully that this is an illusion. And if the ones in that group who aren't there, who want to fight, that's fine. I'm all about that. But I talk about the 5D stuff because once you're in it, like, you just have such a certainty of outcome, it doesn't make a difference anymore. I'm all about, though, the guys who are in 3D and 4D and are like, we're not giving up, we're fighting. It's good. You guys aren't pussies. Like, this is these are the people that we need. But people are going to eventually understand that this is not a coincidence. What things are occurring, the things that are occurring, and the results of what is occurring, they're not coincidences. They are things that are as predictable as the seasons. And we are shifting seasons. So, in a nutshell, 3D is physical, terrestrial kind of world. It's a very sort of basic might is right kind of consciousness. 4D is very based around rationality and psychology, and that's kind of seeing things through the lens of, 3D and 4D are very connected to each other, but it's using kind of ideas and stuff to persuade where things go. But it still sticks to like a structure that we have like full control over macro outcomes. And guys, I'll just finish this first. 5D is divine will. It's fate. It's the changing of the cycles and the seasons. And it's basically that you can't fight against that. You can't fight against it. That's why people like Paul are so important, because they have a very clear, if you're good at, for instance, astrology, like Paul is, if you really understand it, then you can actually see some of the cyclical aspects to how these things go. But even if you don't know astrology, you can feel it. I mean, you can say, does divine will put bIdEn here? I mean, you can think about that for a second and ask, in what sense does bIdEn represent anything remotely connected to the divine? Yeah, so when we talk about our perception limited and we're along for the ride, this is like the paradox thing. It's both true and it's not true. Everything depends on the level that you look at it at. So from a 5D perspective, the outcome is decided. But from a 4D and a 3D perspective, that's not quite clear yet to people. And so we play our parts here in the drama that unfolds in this sort of dimension here. But it's in fact, I know this is difficult stuff to talk about, but this is the thing. It's like, so you do have free will, but yet you're also constrained by divine will, right? And so you can choose to, and this is the whole thing when you get into religious metaphysics about predetermination, etc. These are all things that relate to what extent are you aligned with divine will? Because if you're aligned with divine will, then everything is predetermined. Where everything's predetermined anyway, but sort of your perception of free will changes based on your alignment with divine will. So it's like, if that makes any sense to you guys. Now, I'm going to mention something very quickly on the betting sites. If there was anything that I was a little bit concerned about, it was just simply the betting sites, in that, because they are calling things for bIdEn. But guys, I've looked into the terms, and people have actually talked to most of the betting sites, and I haven't heard a direct answer back from Predicted itself. But betting sites have all pretty much said the same thing, which is that they are going to honor, like, if the Supreme Court reverses things, then they're going to distribute winnings and they'll redo contracts and stuff. So we're okay, guys. I think that the main thing is just how long is it going to take, but we're okay. And the reality is that, let's just say that they decide to say, well, we're not going to give it to you. They would be completely ruined. they would be completely ruined because it would be such an easy lawsuit. They could say we have jurisdiction of being able to say who won what, but you can't say that Biden won the presidency when he didn't win the presidency. So they're going to have to reverse it. So it's just another piece of like adding more tension onto us, right? To have to deal with a little bit more tension because we got a 3D money concern here. But we're okay. We're okay. Well, they're going to have it in their records, and you're going to at least have a ballpark. Now, I screenshotted my stuff because I was suspicious that this would occur. So I screenshotted it election day, or the day before election day. I can't remember. I guess it must have been election day because that's when I finalized. So, yeah, I mean, the books that are holding light are the smart ones. They're the smart ones. But some have been distributing and whatever, They're going to have to deal with it. We're going to get our money. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're going to get our money. We're going to get paid. Don't worry. You are okay because Biden is going to the White House. Like, see, I'm going to make another point here. When you hear Biden supporters say these things, they just sound stupid. They just sound stupid. There's like zombie responses. Zombie responses over and over again. And there's a lot of trolls. Yeah, they're trolls. And, I mean, I can't even tell you. I have to block, like, whenever I check Twitter, it's like block, 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 block. And I do that not only because they're annoying, but because I don't want, these are how people report you. So like very, very rarely do I respond to any trolls. I just block them because if you respond to them, that's how you get, like they're trying to bait you into getting you banned, right? So you just got to be okay. Is this another one right here? I don't even know if this, yeah, is this, what do you think, guys? Should I get this one? Is this denial is strong with this one? Is this another one? Is this another one we should get? Should we axe him? You can update me. What's going on in Arizona? Because I know that Trump continues to lead more, but did they add a bit more? Did they add a bit more here? What was the situation here? What was the situation here? You guys tell me. What is the new thing that they decided? By the way, I have another piece to tell you guys. Anything in Arizona that's interesting? 20,000 lead for Biden right now. Down 21K from what I see. Yeah, we'll see if Trump takes it on his own without having to go to the recount. It would be nice, but guys, I don't want Trump to simply get recounts in the swing states. I want him to get recounts. And I think it sounds like that's what's going to happen. It sounds like from what they did with the God, I just forget it. Is it Crossroads? The program, basically, I think it's Crossroads. They found it in 30 states. It was operating in 30 states. And that's about right, because I would not say that this is occurring in every state, but 30 states sounds right. I was actually surprised when I see it in Oregon. That was the only state that was a little bit confusing for me. But then again, Oregon did just legalize meth. So, I don't know. Maybe that's Oregon. Oregon's a crazy place. I mean, Portland, crazy people there. I don't know. There must be some kind of weird energy vortex. Hammer and scorecard. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I don't know what the deal is. Yeah, decriminalized. Every drug, decriminalized. No, but guys, so one of the other big pieces here was the QRS code, quantum system. It was a quantum blockchain system. And I've been hearing stuff coming out about this, that the voting system, this was installed alongside the votes. Again, I don't know if this is the exact thing. I do know that they had a patent for blockchain technology. So I don't know. And I do know the world that's coming. I do know the world that's coming, right? I do know that in the world that's coming, we are going to have a lot more like quantum technology, quantum voting, quantum financial system. So very, very worthwhile to consider these possibilities. But guys, whether or not there's like a particular card, a particular ace that Trump has, which I think he does, we've got plenty of evidence otherwise. And now that they've been in defiance of the courts, they're in big trouble. So I can tell you one thing. If you want the Supreme Court to treat you well, you don't defy their orders. You don't defy their orders. You do not do that. Yeah, well, guys, look, I want to make a little point about Cerno because I did get I did get a little bit of flack from somebody from this. Um, I'm very grateful to Cernovich, in spite of how he's become. I'm grateful to him because he was in a certain sense he did help me get some traction on here. I remember in the winter of, I guess it was 2015, the winter of 2015, when I got my first Cerno retweet, and I remember my account moving from like 200 to 500 followers. I remember that. I think that the reason I'm a little bit I'm free to admit this. I think the reason that I pick on him more is because like I found the disappointment was very intense because this was somebody whose work was really profound. I mean, Danger in Play was a really profound blog, especially as it went on. Like when you got away from his 2011 and maybe 2012 stuff, which had a lot of anger in it after the divorce, when you got into 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, it was just incredibly profound stuff, and he was just so much on the cutting edge. And this is the thing that's so crazy, is that something happened, and I have my thoughts about what it is, but something happened in early 2017, and he deleted Danger in Play, and he went on this media grifter thing. And I still followed him loyally. I was watching all of his stuff for the first 6 months. And then I realized that he was just playing with my emotions. And that really pissed me off. That really, really pissed me off because this was somebody who I had trusted. This is somebody who's like, I was like, I got this guy's back. And he fucked with me. He fucked with my mind. And yeah, well, I mean, we can talk about it. It's not worth really going into so much of this stuff, but he fell off the path. I think he took some kind of deal. He certainly cared about the fame more than he cared about the truth. And when he decided to take that bargain, that was it. His content went lower and lower and lower, and he's just an attention whore. That's what it comes down to. He's an attention whore. And no wonder he's depleted. No wonder he's feeling, downtrodden. So he's going to destroy himself with this election, which is really crazy because he kind of made himself in the last election. And this election is going to lead to his complete humiliation. Like so many people. This is the rule of 2020. People who don't follow the light, people who fall off the path, people who allow their egos to get the best of them, 2020 is a reckoning. It's a karmic reckoning for all these people. Okay, it's a reset because we've had the subterfuge, the fake world, the fake news, the fake system. All that stuff is collapsing. And everybody who's invested in those fake systems is collapsing with them. That's it. That's the story of 2020. Everybody's lives are going through turmoil because a lot of people have been leading fake lives. They've been in fake relationships. Those relationships are falling apart. All lies are being overturned, personal and societal, because we have to move into a more truth-focused society if we are going to get to a place that's, we have to raise our consciousness. And the way to do that is to deal with these lies. So let's see here. Yeah, he looks very unkempt. And I had some people, I know people who have met him, and they all agree his energy just sucks. His energy just sucks. That's the thing. Cerno used to say fight, 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 fight. And now, remember, what does Cerno say now? Cerno doesn't say anything about fighting. Cerno rolls over. He does some sort of basic bitch political analysis about, Republicans and trying to take back seats in 2020, 2022. I mean, it's stupid. So my thoughts on the watermark ballots, I said this before, it's a possibility. Like I've said, Q is strategically correct, but has tons and tons of errors in it. And they're deliberate errors. And Q people follow these errors very often. I think they take some things too literally. I think there's a lot of bait in there to confuse. So I don't know if the watermark thing is true, but something like that's happening. Something like that's happening. And I do think that we are going to have fair results. I don't think there's going to be a revote. I don't think it's going to come down to a revote. The energy was on election day for voting. That conscious choice was made. We will do a recount of sorts, and I think that we have the data that we don't need to even bother going into revoting. So that's my perspective on that. I mean, guys, the big thing is that we just got to buckle up. We got a month ahead of us with this stuff. Hopefully, we're going to start to get fed a lot better energy over the coming weeks, because this is now we start to hit litigation phase, discovery phase, and this is where they're like, Trump's not going to be giving up, and they're going to be saying all sorts of crap over and over again, and they'll be throwing riots and doing their shit. But more and more stuff is going to start dropping, and they're going to be in a frenzy to try to distract from it. But it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And eventually the investigations are going to start to hit the media themselves. So it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a bit of a mess, but it's going to be fun. Let's see here. Yeah, why he wants out, what he wants out now. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's some sort of blackmail on him. I don't know if he took some deal and he has to make these stupid posts. He has to be controlled op. I don't know. And he wants out because he doesn't want to take the deal anymore. I don't know. I can just speculate. Cortez is awesome. Cortez is awesome. Yeah, he won't look you in the eye. That's true. I don't think Q is a troll. Q is not a troll. But and Q is 5D. It's 5D. I think that the issue for Q is that it's 5D, but often messes up the 3D, 4D stuff. That's the issue with it. But yeah, Q people are grounded in 5D. They don't get demoralized by anything. They have a very clear understanding of the path. And that's been the purpose of Q fundamentally, was to awaken people to the belief in, when they say trust the plan, I think people can misconstrue that. I think including Q people misconstrue it, thinking that Trump has every single thing completely planned out. Maybe he does. I don't know, but I don't think so. It's more that trust the divine plan. Trust the plan. Trump is just simply an instrument of divine retribution. That's it. He is the instrument of divine wrath against this group. And he surrenders to it, and he's aided in this. And I think he is steps ahead of people. I think that he's probably made a handful of minor errors, but they've been minor. And I think that, I don't think anything fatal has been happening to him when it comes to any decisions he's made. So I guess it just depends on how you want to look at it when it comes to divine plan or whatever. When it comes to the plan, trusting the plan, right? Trump maintains he's won. Yep. Pelosi has oversight of the computer voting system. Yeah, PRESIDENT is connected with it. We also have China connected to some of these voting systems. Dominion, right? Great Dominion voting systems. We also have Bedford's Law, right? You can prove fraud mathematically through Bedford's Law, because numbers should take a distribution when it comes to votes. You're going to see numbers in a certain distribution. And if there's been fraud committed, then the numbers don't match the distribution pattern. I mean, people who have been running statistical analysis on what's occurred there, I mean, it's egregious, it's obvious. So, like, that's why when people say, do you really think it's going to happen? Do you really think? I get messages, especially from people abroad. Like, do you really think? It's like, I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know what to tell you. Easy win. It's an easy win if you're just not a pussy. It's an easy win if you stay in the game. That's it. That's it. So let's see here. Let's see, because I don't want to belabor it too much. They declared the winning today. Biden's victory, and this is the beginning of the end for them, because now they're all in. They're all in. They had, I think, probably the last chance to pull back yesterday, and now they're all in. And that's it. And that's it. But we're going to continue to post. We're going to continue to have these periscopes. We're going to continue to hammer down on people who still don't believe this stuff. They still don't believe it. It's all right. Guys, how much have I staked on the line for this? Why would I do it? Why would I do it if I didn't feel the certainty? You guys can feel my certainty. Why would I do it? Why would I risk everything? Why would I risk all that money? Why would I risk my reputation? Can you imagine how bad it would be for me if I was wrong? I would look pretty stupid. I would look pretty stupid. It would be, I'm not saying maybe I could recover, but I would look pretty stupid. So I wouldn't do this unless I knew already. It's just, whatever. That's just the way it is. Yeah, Cerno does not give eye contact. He does not give eye contact, and I don't really know. I mean, I kind of know why, but it is a strange thing. It is a strange thing. Guys, I don't know, QPost, there's a thing called qmap.pub. It is really difficult to follow, and I'm more of like a fellow traveler with that group, and I listen to some of their things and I see some of their analysis. I do not read QPost. I do not search QPost. I do not try to. I've like zero going down that rabbit hole trying to piece these things together. It's not at all of interest to me. It's not what I want to do. And I also think a lot of it, I think is just, it's futile, because people, that's why Q gets a bad reputation, because you hear people, and I'm not blaming them. I think it's cool. I like the enthusiasm. They're invested. But, you could argue that Q harvests energy, but if for a positive program from these people by getting them so invested in trying to figure out the riddle. But I can't imagine going through all that stuff, and they just get things wrong so often trying to figure out what's coming next that they make themselves look silly to outsiders. So, and that's why it gets the kind of reputation for being very insular. Do I think Tesla has major impact on Trump through his uncle? 100%. Yeah, there's no question about that. Trump and his uncle are confirmed to have been very close. And, but as you guys know, right, John G. Trump was in the Navy and was responsible for having to go through Tesla's papers after Tesla's death. So Trump and his uncle were very close. They talked quite a bit. His uncle was a MIT professor. So yeah, he knows all about that stuff. You guys have asked me. I'll answer this question. This is a question from before. And guys, if you feel free to answer questions, because I feel like we've been saying a lot and we know it's coming. So we're gonna wait until see what the next drops are. I feel like the morale's pretty good. They attacked us again today. We know. But you would have thought that maybe the energy would be worse with him announcing Biden as president. And it wasn't. It wasn't that bad. I mean, there's a little bit. He got a little bit of something, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't, I was honestly expecting it to be worse. I was pretty disappointed. I felt like, they must be really in a bad position because they couldn't even harvest, or maybe we're just in a really good position at this point because they could not harvest fear. They just couldn't harvest fear. And you can see the frustration on their opponents. Like, they keep saying, just give up, just give up. No, stop believing. No, stop believing. Stop supporting Trump. Just give up. You're coping. It's like, well, you're the one who seems to be pretty upset about it. You're the one who seems to be coping with me laughing at you and your silly idea that this demented old pedophile is going to actually become president. Not happening. Not happening, guys. Yeah, well, look, I said this, I think last spring. I said that the arrest would happen by the end of the year, and I said absolute latest spring 2021. And I said that at some point last spring. And I stand by that. I stand by it. I think people People want it to hit their own timeline. I hope that you guys can start to see why it had to go the way it's going down. And I hope that you guys, even if you don't have quite 5D grounding, that you can see in the 4D sort of cause effect, that you can start to see how what happens right now when the fraud gets revealed in the election, how this brings down the entire cabal. I hope you can see it, because this is the one way that we could get everybody's attention on it. So I hope you guys will start to see why it had to happen this way, and why, you know, that is going to occur, and that you can't just go in the middle of a very hot political situation and start arresting people. You just can't do it. You can't do it. So, while I understand at a certain point, it's like, are they just lying to you indefinitely? I've never gotten any resonance from Q that, you know, they're fucking with us about this. I've never had that feeling on a deep level that they've been fucking with us, because it checks out. I mean, you can argue that in a certain sense, Q is simply, it's like the amalgamation of all sorts of like conspiracies and things people have been pointing out for decades, and it just simply puts them all together. It ties all of these different threads together. So, I mean, that's pretty significant. It's pretty significant. That doesn't mean that it's its own separate thing so much as it was trying to make sense of things. Because people would figure out, okay, well, Nazis over here, Operation Paperclip, and, you know, 9/11, Building 7, or John F. Kennedy, what happened? And they see these different threads, and they don't know how to put it together. And Q put it together, basically. For a lot of people, Q was the piece. You know, the keystone, right? Pennsylvania, keystone. Do I feel safe in NYC tonight? I certainly did this afternoon, but I had a late lunch, early dinner with my wife out in the park, and as we were finishing, this sort of crowd came. So we'll see what happens tonight. We'll see what happens tonight. I mean, I think that tonight's fine, because my guess is that, and probably tomorrow, maybe tomorrow it'll start, but my guess is today's fine, because people right now feel like, you know, they're kind of celebrating, right? So it's when the celebration crashes. I think it's going to happen on Monday. I think it's going to happen on Monday because I think it's on Monday that the courts start to talk about these things. And then they're going to start to feel like, oh shit, maybe Trump's not simply not conceding. He's actually, like, the courts are going to start to try to strip this away from us. A little side point here. We're talking in the crowd about, you know, now we got to get Georgia, get the Senate seat. I mean, guys, this just underlines the sort of cuck mindset of conservatives. I hate to use an old term, but it was a good term. They're like, well, we'll keep the Senate at least, and then they're going to lose the Senate. Of course they're going to lose the Senate. They're going to pack the courts. They're going to add more seats to the Senate if they don't steal it. They're going to do whatever the fuck they want. And what are you going to do to stop them if you let them steal an election from under your nose? I can tell you that if it did go down that direction, let's just say, you know, no 5D, no divine will, it went down that direction, me and many other people, we just would not be a part of it. It's like, I am not on that timeline. I refuse to be on that timeline. If the people who voted for Biden wanted to be on that timeline, they can experience it. They can experience the cosmic, karmic consequences of that. But not me. I don't consent to it. I don't consent to that timeline. I don't consent to being harvested like that. And they're just lucky. They're very, very lucky that many of us were not that deceived and that weak, that we fought against it for them too. They may hate us now. They may be frustrated. In the end, almost all of them are going to feel, they're going to feel like the people who, you know, supported the Nazis, right? That's what they're going to feel like. It's their karma. Am I CIA? Lots of people on 4chan have been saying you are. That's funny. Actually, that's really funny. I was actually they attempted to recruit me at UPenn. But that happens to everybody. I know plenty of people at Ivy Leagues who have had the same experience. Like if you're in some sort of international affairs position, you go to CIA recruitment stuff. The CIA invites you. But I would be lying if I said I didn't consider it. I mean, I did go into a private intelligence firm, but like, no, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And whatever. Like, you can believe me or you don't have to believe me. I'm probably the weirdest CIA agent, considering my entire agenda is to destroy the CIA. So that would be a kind of weird thing for a CIA person to do. I think it should be disbanded, and I think that the people should be prosecuted in the CIA. So, oops. Well, I don't know if they're shut down. I thought, QAnon.pub or Q.pub. Yeah, he knew about the mail scan for sure. That's a good point. I mean, we don't have to get crazy here with all sorts of, we don't have to go to the extent of watermarks or blockchain ballots, quantum voting. We don't have to go to that point to know that Trump knew that mail-in voting was going to be a disaster, and therefore he would have gotten in front of it. No question about it. Yep. We got to stay calm, cool, collected. Yep, declaring premature victory, had to do it. It's definitely a color revolution. I mean, we've been doing this in other countries for a while. It's just not going to succeed. They don't have the infrastructure to do it. They're in a weak position. I just keep saying this. They're in a weak position. They're not going to win. One of the biggest obstacles in the GOP is that approximately 3/4 of the GOP is blackmailed and therefore incredibly weak at being able to, they're compromised. I mean, about 75 to 80% of Congress is compromised. That's why they're useless. That's why they're ineffectual. They've been blackmailed for the most part. There's a handful that are actual assets, like Schiff, who is actually CIA, right? You gotta love the CIA writing their own candidates. Like we're like they're veterans. It's fucking funny. It's fucking funny when you run as a veteran from an organization that drones American soldiers or gets their cronies in other third world countries to do it, gives them the intel. I just hope you haven't stretched your cognitive dissonance too far. Be careful. Be careful. I know what cognitive dissonance looks like. And it's people who somehow think that Biden won the election without stealing it. That's cognitive dissonance. But I'm happy to have it be, let's have it litigated. Let's see what happens. If you can believe what the media says, and people don't check it on their own. Like if somebody said, well, I'm not sure about all this stuff, but it is very fishy what happened with Biden, then okay, that's fine. Like you may not have like incredibly deep perception, but at least you're not brainwashed. But there are people who are just like, well, the media declared it for Biden. All these other votes came in. I guess we just have to accept it. Like that's just like slave thinking. It's sheep thinking. Like you gotta snap out of that. You gotta think for yourself. You gotta investigate the evidence yourself. Paul talked about this, and you guys won. I've talked to Paul about it. We're gonna figure it out. You guys want Paul and I to do a session together talking about this stuff, talking about big picture. I think we're gonna get into. It's going to be a big moment. But one of the things that Paul's been talking about on his newsletter, which you guys got to get on, recommend getting readings from him too. But we had a karmic test on the election to believe what our own eyes saw, or to go along with what we're told. A lot of people are just going along with what they're told. I don't have any time for that. It's not my timeline. I don't consent to that. I don't do that. I have not seen Lee Stranahan in a long time. Feel free to post about that stuff. Let's see here. Let's see. Last air in their quiver. Yeah, this is a good point about Big Dick Anon. I've been curious, and I've been watching Big Dick Anon. Big Dick Anon, Paul Ferber on Twitter is the person to follow if you want to see the Big Dick Anon stuff, which is from 4chan. I try to keep an open mind with it, but I agree that there's this whole thing talking about. He's kind of talking about out of two sides of his mouth, because he talks about, God's retribution and how China's screwed, but then he goes through, the Mad Max future, right, and the desolation and tribulations, and sounds quite dystopian. It sounds like a Revelation timeline, which you guys know I'm not in agreement about. Sounds like a Revelation timeline, but we'll see. Let's see here. Keep going down. But guys, how do you ground yourself in 5D? Go out in nature and ask to be used by God. Go out in nature and spend some time and ask to be used by God, and to surrender, and just to sort of drop your own demands. It's a good way to get in touch with 5D. What's the wine? We've got I'll show you guys again. We got another Lambrusco from Emilia Romagna. So it's a nice little light sparkling red, light sparkling, not like a champagne. Okay, so the Schumann resonance. Oh God, how do I explain this? So the Schumann resonance is all right. I want to tell you about the Schumann. This is a good question. It's a good question. So get comfortable here. The Schumann resonance is basically this. I might have the exact number wrong. I think it's 7.83. It's something like that, hertz. And Schumann, who's a scientist, discovered basically that the Earth has what you might call a pulse, has a frequency that it gives off, and that we are basically entrained into the pulse. Now, it's kind of like you could say that this, and that we respond very positively to this resonance. Now, the resonance can change based on energetic things that happen, but the way to look at this is that the Earth is almost like a living entity if you look at it from this perspective, which it is. I mean, that's why, like, you can call her Gaia. And that's another thing, guys. I mean, when I talk about the ascension, Earth has chosen to ascend. Earth has chosen ascension. So if you're an entity on here and you're fighting against Gaia, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. They've been trying to capture her, harvest her energy. She's not very happy about this. She's tired of it. The Schumann resonance is the Earth's wavelength. And things that they do with the sort of black box matrix, the sort of 4D simulation they had that was designed to, how do I put this? That was designed to basically harvest our energy. They do things that try to affect the sort of frequency of the Earth, because it affects us. So when the Schumann resonance shifts, we can feel it shift with us as well, especially if you're more energetically attuned. But they actually did all sorts of experiments on this, and they'd put people in rooms and they'd have it entrained to the same frequency as the Schumann, as the ideal Schumann resonance, 7.83, and people felt great, and then they changed it to a different frequency and they felt very bad. Another way that maybe is more digestible to look at is to look at it from brain waves, right? Because when we talk about hertz, we have the 4 different types of brain waves. We have, alpha. You have more than that, but generally they're classified into theta, like delta, theta, in terms of bandwidth, right? Delta, theta, alpha, beta. I think that's right, or beta, alpha, something like that. There's also gamma. I'm not sure about the 4 that are represented there. If I know that theta and delta are represented there, and I believe beta too. I'm not sure if alpha waves are. So anyway, whatever. But the point is that when you see those graphs, and they take some time. I mean, I'm still learning the details of it. I'm still trying to figure it out. But yeah, it affects if things change on the planet, the energy changes on the planet, it gets noted in the Schumann resonance. So if you guys are looking for a scientific explanation of energy and how it works, there's an example of it. You were yelled at by two people on the street. What did you do? What did you do? I know you did something. White boy, your heart looked broken. I don't even know what the story is with these people. Yeah, Gigi, I agree. I think we're safer now. It's going to happen later. It's interesting. Monday they will start. Yeah, so I probably should get out of the city before then. Probably should get out. Trump is on the Hawking scale. Whew. I mean, Trump's way up. Trump's in love. I would put him in love. I would put him at probably like over 500 for sure. There's no question about that. But I mean, I wouldn't put him so much necessarily at saint level. You know, the thing is, there's like the amplitude and there's the frequency of a wave. And so Trump has a very high frequency, but he also has just an enormous amount of energy. So he's maybe like at 510 on the Hawking scale, but he is just blasting out so much of it. He knows how to harvest it in a positive way from source. But he's definitely at that. He's definitely around the love level, I would say. Odds of the madman coming out on top, 100%. I'm a CIA mole, that's right. Has Trump done anything to regulate big tech and censorship? We need reform. We do need reform, and it's going to come. It's going to come after. The thing is, you deal with the fraud, and then so we start to have recounts, and then we start to get to the root of, because you have these people, regular people who they probably paid a couple $100, not very smart people, right? Paid them a couple $100, locals, to do all sorts of manual fraud. And they did that. They're not really thinking about the consequences of it. When they get arrested, and the thing was that they weren't going to get arrested before because of the corrupt system in the cities. But now that the hammer is dropping on it, when they get arrested and they're told, hey, you're going to prison for life, actually, for doing this, they're going to be like, no, I didn't do that. He told me to do it. He told me to do it. So then they rat out that person. And then that person's like, well, I was just following orders from this person. And then it's like, well, that person's actually connected to the DNC. So we're going to subpoena his records. And then it's going to see that who he was connected to higher up, it'll go to people like Pelosi, right? And then there's going to be communications between Pelosi and the media and tech companies to push certain narratives. And so this is how the entire thing falls apart. Because people are going to start ratting on each other. Because the consequences are very, very extreme. And they don't control the justice system, so they can't promise these people anything. We have, I think it was was it in Pennsylvania or Michigan? There's like 100 people. 100 people who were there on the ground willing to sign affidavits saying that we will tell you that we've witnessed fraud on election day. That's an enormous number of people. This isn't like one person who's looking for attention. This is widespread. People are like, no, this is messed up. This was messed up. This was messed up. And it's happening all over. It's a locked shut case. And it goes all the way to media and big tech. And this is going to give Trump the opportunity to do it. Because tampering with an election, especially after, CISA, right, the Department of Homeland Security, this is a threat to the election. This is a threat to national security, especially if these people are, which they are, communicating and colluding with China. So big tech is now going to be considered a foreign agent, working under the control of a foreign agent. So that's how the whole thing unravels. And it's going to be a process that begins probably next week. to the spring, chipping more and more away at it. You probably don't see some of the biggest figures you'd like to see arrested until the spring, but you're going to start to see where things are going. It'll be hard to deny. Come on, Paul Publisher. Cerno just said Trump will concede. This is the funniest thing in the world. It's the funniest thing in the world. All right, let's see. Yep. Biden supporters honking in your city. Just got back from Nature S and got to use me. Yep. Christ was at 1,000. Well, Scott is right about that. He is an energy creature. I get my news from all over the place. Mostly just Twitter. Smart people I find and follow. I don't know if Biden makes it to inauguration. But you know what? Biden was never going to be the president. It was always prepping for Harris. She's been groomed for this. They were going to sacrifice him and get rid of him pretty much immediately after the election. I'm not even certain if he would have made it to inauguration anyway. They might have gotten rid of him before inauguration. But, so yeah, guys, as Adam completely, so he hasn't had a consistent opinion since 2016. Something happened to him. I swear to God, something happened between the inauguration in April. I don't know what it is, but he sold out. Remember, he used to call out journalists for actually taking money. I bet you anything that he took money. I bet you anything he took money, because where is he making his money from? I don't know. I mean, he's not selling stuff anymore, really. I don't think he's making too much on his books. He's not doing the supplement stuff anymore. He said that in his Periscope. He said it was going to be peaceful. Well, that's good to know. I'll be able to talk about that, too. That'll be fun. Trump wasn't on Epstein Island. It's been, long debunked. All right. So last thing I'm going to talk about today. Last thing. We'll keep it a little shorter because we had a really long one yesterday. What comes next? What comes next after... You think Cerno was on Epstein Island? Holy shit. Holy shit. I don't think so. I wouldn't go that far. No, I don't think so. Although I did know he knew Dershowitz very well. That is true. He did know Dershowitz very well. But I don't want to say that. I don't want to speculate on that stuff. Because I don't want to be too defamatory. I just want to stick to what I know on this stuff. We can do some... I have zero evidence about any of that stuff. And look, I will make the point that Cerno has not... he's controlled op now. He's controlled opposition. But I wouldn't go... But he's definitely done good things. He's definitely done good things. I don't think that he's necessarily he's not an evil person. He's not an evil person. He's just been captured somehow. He's lost his way. And I think maybe he made a deal, but he's not some sick person who, diddles kids. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that for a second. He's it's just a sad arc. I think that people should learn from him, because he's a case study in hubris. He's a case study in hubris. He was somebody who built a brand completely based on curiosity and development, really, really insightful development. He's a very intelligent person. And then he reached a pinnacle of fame because he fought hard in 2016 with Trump. And then he lost his way. He lost his way. He again, we don't know what it was exactly, but he lost his way, and he stopped. He became a different person, and that's why he deleted the blog, guys. That's why he deleted the blog. He deleted the blog because he didn't want to be associated with that person anymore. And that, when I saw him do that, that was the big tell that something really big had shifted, and that probably he had made a deal, because part of the deal was getting rid of the blog. And he accepted it, and maybe he thought, well, I'll be able to get all the attention I want, and I'll have money, and I don't think he's been happy. I don't think he's happy with the choice he made. I don't see him as a dark creature. I don't think he's happy with the choice he made, and I think that's why he kind of wants out. He was laughing at Trump in 2015. Yeah, I mean, it's ego, right? Ego. So, guys, what comes next? Last thing I want to talk about. What comes next after this? Okay, what happens after the spring? Well, this is the last election. This is the last American election. We're going towards some sort of global system, some sort of global structure, and I think Trump is going to start to guide the entire world into it. And I think that this is when I jump the Shark Tank, guys. This is when we start to really get the evidence of, ETs, extraterrestrials. This is where all that stuff really starts to be disclosed. This is where the civilization starts to jump. Technologically, everything starts to jump very rapidly. And I don't know what exactly that is, but I think that basically we will have a decade of transitioning from a prior civilization to a new one. And I think that the 2030s are space for us. I think the 2030s, we become more of like the galactic community. But the 2020s are going to be this big transition where we are trying to heal and rebuild this planet, trying to move this planet to a really different tier. So yeah, that's kind of what I think. And that's why I think Trump jokingly will retweet things, which, and also he has a sense of humor, so it could just be a sense of humor thing. But you notice that people say we want Trump for, more than 4 more years. And he'll retweet things that have Trump, like Trump 2024, Trump 2028, Trump. Something's going to be changing in the system. Magenta thinks that people are going to be declaring allegiance to basically the American Constitution across the world. That resonates. I don't know if it in a literal sense, but that resonates. That something like the American Constitution would be structured for a global community. And we'll see how that global government structure works. It's not going to be some sort of New World Order shit like the UN. But that's where we're headed. We're headed there. And Trump is the person who guides us there. Trump destroys the old world order, the New World Order, the old world. And it moves. China gets broken. And that's something that I think is going to happen by the spring. I think it has to happen by the spring in order for things to, because China is the only real threat left in the world. Russia is not the issue. It's China. It's China. China is the big cabal bastion that really has power. There's a couple of client states you could say like Iran, but they don't have they crumble without the big guns. China is the last big global threat. So we're going to have to just be prepared for what happens with that. There could be some sort of threat of war that comes. Magenta talked about a nuke, right? A nuke threat. Not that it was real, but talked about it. We got a lot more fun. This ride is not over yet, guys. We got more we got more to go on this ride. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun trip. We're gonna have to keep rolling with the energy. But yeah, Trump's not worried, and I do believe that he destroys the New World Order, and then he is the one who transitions us into this new sort of global governance. And it could be that he is the leader for a time, and he kind of, when he pulls back when he finally resigns, it's when we're ready to progress from more of a as somebody said, roundtable kind of way of operating rather than top down hierarchical. So guys, that's my thoughts for tonight. And look, guys, stay positive. All right, stay positive. We are just. I said roundtable first. Well, that was another thing that Magenta talked about. She used that term. I don't really know what that means because obviously not everybody's going to be leading. But yeah, we're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens. Stay positive. Be prepared for the shit that comes. It's gonna come, and we're gonna overcome it as always. All right, see you guys.